You guys will never believe what happened. I'm Sarah, living in this quaint, tree-lined neighborhood in the coastal town of Seabrook, chasing my dream of becoming a novelist who weaves stories from the sea's whispers. Today's my 18th birthday, and I was supposed to be asleep, but the night had other plans. I ended up knocking on Ezra's door. Yep, the retired bookstore owner next door with the silver hair, warm blue eyes, and a voice that could calm a stormy sea. I said I couldn't sleep, and he let me in without a word. But when I sat beside him, the silence said everything. I didn't want to know how it went down. Keep watching, because this story's all about one night that hums deeper than the ocean's tide. Like and subscribe for more. The night was cool in Seabrook, the air alive with the rustle of leaves and the distant crash of waves, the scent of salt and pine weaving through the quiet streets. Sarah's 18th birthday had been a whirlwind lunch with friends, a solo walk by the shore, and hours spent scribbling in her attic room, her latest story about a shipwrecked poet pulsing with her restless energy. Her rented attic, a cozy haven of notebooks and ink pens, was usually her refuge, but tonight, the weight of her new adulthood kept her awake, her mind buzzing with possibilities. Her stories were vivid, their prose mirroring the daring stirring in her heart on this milestone day, always seeking a spark to ignite them into something alive. Turning 18 had awakened a fearless curiosity, and when sleep wouldn't come, her thoughts drifted to Ezra, the retired bookstore owner next door, whose quiet warmth had become a chapter she couldn't stop writing in her mind. At 67, Ezra was a former bookseller whose gentle charm had caught her eye since she moved to Seabrook a year ago. His silver hair was swept back, his warm blue eyes carried the depth of decades curating novels, and his hands steady from turning countless pages moved with a quiet grace that felt like a well-loved book. His evening, Sarah, in passing, paired with a reserved smile, had always felt polite but distant, like a story on a high shelf. She'd told herself it was just gratitude for a neighbor who'd lent her a rare copy of Dickinson, who'd shared tales of his bookstore days over porch coffee. But her just-turned-18 boldness, amplified by her birthday, drew her to his door when the clock struck midnight, her heart flickering with a need for connection, a spark of daring urging her forward. Sarah slipped into a cozy sweater, her hair loose from the sea breeze, and crossed the yard, her sneakers soft on the gravel. The street was quiet, Seabrook's cottage is dark, the sea's hum a soothing pulse. She knocked softly on Ezra's door, the amber glow of his living room spilling through the windows, promising warmth. Ezra opened it, his flannel shirt unbuttoned at the collar, his smile kind but surprised, his blue eyes catching hers in the lantern's glow. "Sarah," he said, his voice a soothing hum, like a storyteller calming a storm. "It's late. Everything all right?" She shifted, her voice light but charged. "Couldn't sleep," she said, her hazel eyes glinting with gratitude and a bolder spark. "It's my 18th birthday today, and my head's all over the place. Can I come in for a bit?" Her just-turned-18 confidence pushed her forward as he nodded, stepping aside without a word, his gaze lingering on her wind-tousled hair. The living room was a cozy sanctuary, its walls lined with bookshelves stuffed with novels, poetry, and faded journals, their spines glowing in the firelight. A stone fireplace crackled, casting amber shadows across a plush leather couch by a rain-streaked window overlooking the sea. A record player spun a soft jazz tune, Ella Fitzgerald, mellow and soulful, its notes weaving through the air, mingling with burning cedar, the faint scent of old books, and Ezra's cologne amber, warm and grounding, like a leather-bound novel. They settled on the couch, a pot of tea steaming on the coffee table, the sea's silver shimmer casting patterns across the room. Ezra didn't press her for reasons, his silence a quiet invitation, and Sarah felt the weight of the night shift, her dangerous desires stirring in the stillness. Their conversation started light, her birthday, the restless night, but the comfort of the setting loosened their guards. Sarah's mind drifted to flashes of their past interactions, each a page in their shared story, echoes of quiet moments that felt as grounding as the nurse Sarah's song in a Liverpool hospital hallway, a memory of resilience and connection that lingered in her heart. She recalled their first meeting when Ezra had welcomed her to Seabrook with a nod from his porch, a book in hand, his eyes lingering as he complimented her handwritten journal. Another memory surfaced, a summer evening when he'd invited her for tea, sharing a story about a rare book find, his voice warm as she teased him about his old typewriter. Then there was the quiet moment when he'd read her shipwreck story draft, his hand brushing hers as he pointed to a line, his voice soft. "You've got a novelist's soul, Sarah." A more recent evening flickered when she'd lingered at his gate, returning a borrowed novel, his gaze holding hers as he said, "You make Seabrook feel like a story." Each memory carried a spark she'd tried to dismiss, blaming his reserve on neighborly distance. But now, in his living room, the air hummed with possibility, like a story waiting to unfold. The conversation deepened, the Ella Fitzgerald record a soft undercurrent as the firelight danced, the clock ticking past a.m. Sarah opened up more than she'd planned, the intimacy of the moment loosening her guard. She spoke of her writing, how it felt like capturing a moment's soul before it slipped away. "It's like, I'm trying to hold on to something fleeting," she said, her voice soft but fervent, her fingers brushing the couch's leather, its texture grounding her. "I want my stories to make people feel alive, like the sea at night." Does that sound too ambitious? Her hazel eyes met his, searching for the man behind the reserved smiles, her dangerous desires, urging her to push beyond the quiet. Ezra nodded, his hands close on the couch, their warmth a quiet strength like a well-turned page. "Not too ambitious," he said, his voice low, resonant, like a bookseller narrating a rare tale. "Your stories have that spark, Sarah. I read that draft you shared alive, like a wave you can't forget. It's magnetic." His words were measured, but a new weight lingered in them, a hesitation that made her pulse quicken, her curiosity flaring like a sentence finding its mark, reminiscent of the quiet power in a song shared in a hospital hallway. She tilted her head, the couch creaking softly, the scent of tea mingling with the cedar from the fireplace and the amber of his cologne. "Magnetic?" she teased, her voice playful but edged with daring, her hazel eyes locking on his, their blue depths reflecting the firelight like a book's cover. "That's a big word for the neighbor who just writes in her attic. You sure you're not just being kind because it's my birthday?" Her dangerous desires pushed her forward, the living room narrowing to just their shared space, the jazz melody a soft pulse, the sea's hum a quiet backdrop. He chuckled, his hand shifting closer on the couch, his eyes holding hers a moment longer than usual, a flicker of something unguarded in his gaze. "I'm not that kind," he said, his voice warm but tinged with a quiet intensity, like a bookseller revealing a hidden chapter. "You're not just the neighbor, Sarah. You've got this fire in your stories, in the way you show up here at midnight. It's hard to pretend this is just about insomnia." The jazz notes swelled softly, curling around them like a gentle wave, the air heavy with the scent of amber and the weight of their moment, the firelight casting golden flecks across the room. Sarah's mind raced, weaving through more memories that deepened their connection. She remembered a spring evening when Ezra had stopped by to share a book on maritime myths, lingering to discuss her latest story, his voice warm as he said, "You see the world like a poet." Another moment flickered a fall afternoon when he'd helped her carry a box of books to her porch, his hand brushing hers, his smile brief but carrying a warmth that lingered in her chest. There was the time he'd paused at her door, admiring her draft of A Sailor's Tale, his voice soft as he said, "Your work stays with me, Sarah." And a quiet moment last week, when he'd leaned over the fence, his eyes catching hers as he said, "You make Seabrook feel like a novel." Each memory was a page, tightening the narrative between them, pulling her closer to the edge of something bold, her heart pounding with the possibility that his reserve was hiding a deeper tale, much like the quiet courage of a nurse's song spreading through a community. The conversation stretched on, the firelight a soft rhythm as the clock ticked past a.m., the sea's hum a quiet pulse in the background. Sarah shared more than she'd intended, her dangerous desires loosening her tongue. She spoke of her fears that her stories might go unread, her dream to create words that lingered like a memory. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm chasing something impossible," she admitted, her voice softer now, her fingers brushing the couch's edge, its texture grounding her. "But when I write, it's like I'm alive in a way I can't explain. Do you ever feel that way about books?" Her eyes searched his, her heart seeking not just connection, but a glimpse of the man beneath the bookseller, the sea's hum echoing her pulse. Ezra leaned closer, his elbow brushing hers on the couch, the contact sending a spark through her like a sentence hitting the perfect note. "Every time I find a book that moves me," he said, his voice low, resonant, like a bookseller sharing a private passage. "Your shipwreck story did that, Sarah. It's not just words, it's you, poured onto the page. That kind of fire, it's rare." His words carried a new intensity, a crack in his reserved facade, and the air between them shifted, the firelight amplifying the moment, her plan gaining momentum like a story finding its climax. Sarah shifted closer, her shoulder brushing his, her heart racing as she sat beside him, the silence between them heavy with unspoken truth. The living room shrank to just their shared space, the jazz record a distant hum, the fire's crackle a soft heartbeat. "Hey guys," she said, her voice bright but laced with mischief, as if speaking to her imaginary audience, her eyes glinting as she leaned back, breaking the tension for a moment. "We're about to get into the spicy portion of the story, so please don't forget to like and subscribe." She grinned, the words a playful nod to her daring, but her heart pounded as she met his gaze, the silence speaking louder than words. "You didn't ask why I was here," she said softly, her voice charged with truth, her hazel eyes unwavering. "You just let me in, Ezra. Why does it feel like this silence is saying everything?" The moment held, the silence electric, the Ella Fitzgerald record, a soft pulse as the living room narrowed to just them, the couch, the firelight, the sea's silver shimmer casting shadows like a spotlight. Her heartbeat quickened, her breath steady but charged, her dangerous desires carrying her forward like a bold stroke across a page. She'd knocked on his door for comfort, but now, sitting beside him, her plan was unfolding, the air alive with possibility, the firelight's crackle a rhythm to their unspoken dance. Ezra's gaze softened, a slow smile tugging at his lips, his voice low, strained but warm, like a story finding its perfect ending. "It is saying something, Sarah," he said, his eyes flickering to her hand near his, then back to hers, a spark of something unguarded breaking through his reserved demeanor. "You've got this way of pulling people in, making them see the world through your stories. I didn't ask questions because I didn't need to. But you're 18 today, and this, it's complicated." Her smile widened, her heart soaring, the tension a living thing between them, pulsing like the firelight's glow. "Maybe I like complicated," she said, her voice teasing but honest, leaning closer, her shoulder brushing his, the contact electric, sending a shiver through her like ink spilling across a page. "I'm 18, Ezra. I get to choose what feels right. And this feels right." Her eyes locked on his, the jazz notes swelling like a cue, her plan unfolding in the charged silence. He laughed, a low, warm sound, his hand resting on the couch, fingers brushing hers, the touch sparking a fire in her chest that felt like a story coming to life. "Your trouble, Sarah," he said, his voice rich with amusement and intensity, his blue eyes twinkling with a warmth she hadn't seen before, like a bookseller uncovering a hidden novel. "I've been trying to keep my distance, to keep things neighborly. But you show up on your 18th birthday, sitting here, and I'm supposed to stay composed? You're rewriting every chapter I've got." Her breath caught, the living room shrinking further, the firelight framing them like a final act on a stage. Her friend's warning echoed faintly, "He's just being polite, Sarah. Don't read into it," but her friend was wrong, just as the world had underestimated the quiet power of a nurse's song. This was real, raw, and electric, a moment written in bold lines. "Maybe I like rewriting chapters," she said, her hand pressing lightly against his, the touch grounding her like a page under a pen. "What do you want, Ezra? Now that I'm here, sitting beside you, on my 18th birthday." He leaned back, his smile slow, deliberate, his eyes tracing her face like he was reading a rare manuscript. "I want to see where this story goes," he said, his voice soft but weighted, like a bookseller unveiling a hidden tale. "You're bold, Sarah, bolder than I was ready for. You show up here, with that spark in your stories, in your eyes, and you're turning my world upside down. I'm not sure I want to stop you." The air was thick with possibility, the jazz record fading to a soft pulse, the living room alive with their shared moment, the seas hum a quiet rhythm in the background. Sarah's dangerous desires pushed her forward, her heart racing with the thrill of her plan coming to life, the intimacy of the living room amplifying every glance, every word, as resonant as a song spreading through a community. "You're making it really hard to keep this neighborly," she teased, her voice a mix of playfulness and truth, her hazel eyes locked on his, her courage holding her steady like a pen in her hand. He chuckled, his fingers curling slightly around hers, the touch warm and electric, like a spark in a quiet bookstore. "Neighborly's overrated," he said, his voice low, rich, carrying the weight of their moment, the firelight casting a golden glow across his face. "What do you want, Sarah? Now that you're here, at sitting beside me." Her heart pounded, the memory of his words echoing, the spark of his touch still warm on her skin. What did she want? The solitude of her attic, the sleep she'd sought, or this him, the thrill, the fire he ignited in her heart, as vivid as her stories, as enduring as a song's legacy. I want to keep this, she said, her voice steady now, her eyes locked on his, her hand pressing against his, the contact grounding her like a finished story ready to be read. This feeling, this moment, you. His smile widened, his eyes twinkling with warmth and intensity, like a bookseller seeing a story come to life. That's a bold choice, he said, his voice soft but charged, the jazz record's final notes fading into silence, leaving only the faint crackle of the fireplace and the sea's gentle hum. But I've always been a fan of bold. The living room was still, the firelight a golden glow, reflecting their moment like a perfectly crafted page. Ezra's hand lingered near hers, the air alive with possibility, the teapot and mugs on the table forgotten like props left on a stage. The sea outside hummed, its rhythm, a quiet witness to their connection. Good night, Sarah, he said, his voice soft but heavy with meaning, his eyes holding hers as he stood, offering her a way out but leaving the door wide open, the firelight casting long shadows behind him. Good night, Ezra, she said, her voice a mix of teasing and truth, her heart pounding as she stood, the spark between them brighter than the firelight's glow. She walked to the door, Seabrook's rhythm soothing, the sea's hum a soft applause in the night. As she leaned against her doorframe, her heart ablaze with the thrill of what might come next, she knew her dangerous desires had turned her 18th birthday into a spark, leaving only a daring new chapter, one fearless word at a time. And that's how a sleepless night turned into something neither of us could ignore. Seabrook's got a way of making moments like this feel like a story, doesn't it? If you loved this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Just turned 18. What's next for me and Ezra? Stick around to find out. See you in the next one.